When my human self presents to me many challenges that burden me, my heart center shines and calls to me. This is who I choose to be. Sometimes less.
Welcome to the Vibrational Alchemy Podcast. This is Penny Fisher, and we are so glad you are joining us for this week's episode. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode. Can't believe once again that we are here, episode 5, right? I'm Penny Starhart. Thanks for being with us. We are on this episode of the Vibrational Alchemy podcast series. We're going to be taking a deeper dive into the vibration of judgment, what that means, how we navigate it, and how we can utilize that beautiful flow of unconditional love from the cosmic matrix to support us in this work. Quick preview for what's coming today. We are going to put the channeled message last today, and this channeled message actually came through over a year ago. I was looking through some old notes and found it and was humbled and really blown away by how spot on it is for our today's topic. And this is a beautiful ascended master, Melchizedek, who came through to me while I was sitting in meditation with this message for me. Judgment was something I was clearly working on at the time. And this is a powerful and loving being. You can find a lot of information about Melchizedek right out online. There are, oh my gosh, books and trainings and channeled messages everywhere. He's quite something special. One of my favorite descriptions of Melchizedek comes from one of my teachers. Her name is Mary Tobin. Mary channels Mary Magdalene. And you can find out more about Mary at her website, bluerosehealing.com. And in there, on that site, Mary talks about Melchizedek as an ascended master who is overseeing the evolution of the patterns of light that hold the cosmic Christ consciousness. Now, if you're joining us for the first time or just need a quick reminder, that cosmic Christ consciousness is not about religion. It's not about Christianity. It's not about even the being who walked the earth. The cosmic Christ consciousness is an energy, and it's an energy that holds the vibration of pure and unconditional love. So when you hear us refer to it, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so let's hop in. Last week, we talked about the really critical importance of keeping our light bodies, these auras that surround us, these energy fields that surround us. And we know they exist from science, right? The importance of keeping our light bodies clean, clear, highly energized. And we talked about some ways to use that unconditionally loving vibration of the cosmic matrix to help us with that work. And as part of that conversation, we touched again, as I think we probably have every week and will continue to do, we talked about how to navigate the heavy emotions that are part of our human experience, this idea of our shadow side, which exists within every one of us. It's part of our human journey, part of our human experience, and nothing in my experience to be afraid of or ashamed. As a matter of fact, again, in my experience, the more I embrace it, the more easily I can shift that vibration from the heavy emotion into the vibration of love and light. And for me, at least, one of the trickiest of those heavy emotions is this, the emotion of judgment. If I'm being really honest, I really struggle with this. I mean, here's been my issue. How do I know when I'm simply observing a reality that's in front of me, right? I see something, it exists. How is that different from being in judgment on something? So, for instance, I was in the car the other day and there was a bumper sticker on the car in front of me. And the text on the bumper sticker definitely was not in alignment with how I see the world or the way that I feel people should act if they're in alignment with love, right? And so I noticed that that didn't reflect my perspective. And at that point, I was simply observing, right? I wasn't in judgment. Had I started to feel like that that person who put that on their car was wrong, that they were bad somehow, that they should change, that they should think differently, that they should approach the world the way that I do. At that moment, I've slipped over into judgment. I've left the world of observation, and now I think that somebody should change what they're doing. And here's the thing. We really want to notice when we slip across that line from observation into judgment, and we want to shift that energetic. The vibration of judgment not only brings our own vibration down, right? So all that work that we talked about last week to keep our energy fields clean and clear and vibrating at a high level, if we stay in judgment, that can actually have an impact on our vibration. And it will attract to us more and more of the very thing that we're judging, which is the exact opposite of what we want to do, right? We don't want to feed that. We don't want to bring it into our spaces. We want to stay clean, clear. So, as I said, when I am working with judgment, I do my best to notice when I'm just simply paying attention to something. When I notice it, note it, name it, something I'm seeing or experiencing, I don't believe that that's judgment. But when I start down that path of believing that that person or thing or experience should be different, then I've slipped over into judgment. So when I noticed the bumper sticker, observation. But had I entered the space that caused me to believe that that person should behave differently or have different views or walk in the world differently, then I'd be in judgment. I would be taking away from them an experience that they might need for something. They might have come into this lifetime to learn lessons, to repay karma, to play a role for someone else. And that might be why they are choosing to see the world the way that they are, why they are choosing a bumper sticker like what they chose, right? Listen, we have no idea what's going on in other people's lives. We don't know what lessons they're here to learn, what their journey needs to be for their highest good. And for me, at least, I don't believe it's my business. I don't believe that it is our job to change or shift everyone and everything out there. And remember the laws of quantum physics, right? Whatever we focus on or think about or talk about or push back against, we are actually amplifying it. We're sending it our energy. So in the car, if I had started an inner rant about that bumper sticker, I would have been feeding the belief that was expressed on that bumper sticker with more and more energy, infusing it with more and more power, which is the absolute opposite of what I want to accomplish, right? So it becomes so critically important that we are doing our own inner work. We do it so that our light can shine, can be brighter. And when we are in that space of keeping our fields clean and clear, it is easier for us to share our light out into the world. And here's the beautiful truth. And again, the wise beings of the world have known this for millennia, and science is now catching up. When we resonate with love and light, we send that powerful vibrational wave of love out into the world. And because of entrainment, we actually, it's like a radio signal. We send this signal that invites others to release their own judgment, to heal their own wounds, the things that cause them to be angry or afraid or greedy or filled with anxiety. And this is what true alchemy is. Remember, alchemy is that seemingly magical process of transformation through which our inner selves, our true beings, are brought into alignment with unconditional love. So when we do our own work and then allow that love to flow out into the world, we are, in fact, changing the world. But we're not doing it by telling anyone else how they should be or what they should think or how they should function. And listen, at least for me, working with this energy of judgment, it can be really, really tricky. That shift from neutral observer into judgment, when I think somebody or something should be different, for me anyhow, it can be really, really subtle. And I need to constantly be in dialogue with myself and asking, how am I really feeling here? Have I made that shift over into judgment? So I used to have, the theme of the day seems to be, being in the car. I used to have a really, really long commute to and from work, and I saw things on the road every single day. And here's an example of where the judgment piece was really subtle, and it took me a long time to shift this. So I spent a lot of time shifting away from a road rage response. I mean, I can bring it like a truck driver with this potty mouth sometimes. And I shifted away from that by having compassion for people who were, driving unsafely, who were riding up, let's just say, my rear bumper. And I would think to myself, oh, that poor person, they must be late for work, or maybe their child is sick, or they're rushing. And so that helped me release the anger and the rage. But what I started to notice over time was that even those explanations held this really subtle vibration of judgment. And the vibration of judgment was that they were still doing something wrong. They were still doing something that I thought they shouldn't do, or that I thought they should do differently, or not following the rules the way I thought they should. And I was just making excuses for them, right? So, I'll be honest, I struggle with versions of this every single day, right? And as I started to notice that, I was able to breathe and release it. And we'll talk in a few minutes about what we can do to shift that. Before we do, I think it's worth pausing here for a minute and taking a breath and reminding ourselves that everything is vibration. And when we come to the vibration of judgment, we're actually, like we said, attracting more of what we don't want. I know we said this a minute ago, but I really think it bears repeating. What we think about really, really matters, because our thoughts vibrate as well. And when we send that vibration of judgment out into the world, the vibrational wave attracts to it other matching vibrational waves of similarly low energy, right? But when we keep our vibration high, we simply notice the places where we tend toward judgment, we return to that place of the container of compassion that we talked about last week, right? When we can connect with the cosmic matrix energy, we create that container, however you see it, whether it's light, or you see it as a physical cauldron, or it's just you're hanging out in your heart space and you're filling it with this light of the cosmic matrix, right? The love that flows from the cosmic heart. And we bring that which we judge into the heart space, into the container of compassion. We're able to actually shift that heavy, dense, low vibration, or invite it to shift back into its true form, which is love, right? We hold space for the person or the action or the reality we're observing. We let it have its experience without trying to change it, and we do it without judgment. We simply send love. And here's the kicker, my friends. We can only be in judgment toward others when we are holding that same judgment, that same vibration of judgment toward ourselves. So, as we've said before, the gift does not come wrapped the way we'd like it to. But when we are judging others, it's a part of the roadmap that points us to a place where we don't love ourselves. We're angry at ourselves. We're judging ourselves for something. When we feel that urge to judge someone else, we can be sure that it is an invitation to look at places where we still hold woundedness, where we think that we're less than, not good enough, right? So here's an example. And this one actually does not have to do with a car. This is when our children were little and I'd have a late meeting or be going out for a night with the girls or whatever, I would always leave my husband this incredibly detailed list of everything that he should be doing to maintain the daily routine with our kids. And because he's amazing and brilliant, he pretty much ignored it. And instead, he was 100% his own amazing self with them. And guess what? The kids were fed, they were bathed, they got to bed, they had a blast, right? And Gordon didn't do things the way I would have done him. And man, that would stir my cheese. And back in the day, I totally missed the fact that how he did what he did didn't matter at all. I missed the fact that because I was judging him for how he did things, that was an indication to me of places that I was judging myself. And as I worked through this over time, what I realized was this was a deep place of woundedness. This had to do with self-worth, right? Where I was terrified that I wasn't a good enough mom. And I thought if Gordon did something differently than I did and his way worked, then what did that say about me, right? It was awful. And I've worked really, really hard to clear that up. And so if I possessed a time machine or the time stone or some kind of magic wand, and I could push the rewind button, I would hope that I could do things differently. And maybe it would go like this. I would still get pissed off, right? That's human. But instead of identifying with it and acting on it, I would allow all of that emotion to come up, and then I would notice, oh, here's judgment. Okay, judgment, what are you here to teach me? If I had let it come out sideways at my poor husband, I would probably apologize to him. And then I would find time to sit quietly. And I would ask judgment again, what are you here to teach me? How can I love myself more? And I would breathe. And I would drop into my sacred heart chamber. I would open up to the flow of the cosmic matrix. I would invite it in and ask it to create that container of compassion that we talked about. And then I would simply bring into that container of compassion my judgment I had of Gordon and the judgment that I had of myself. And I would breathe and breathe and breathe. And maybe I would have a memory that would help me know where that judgment came from, and maybe I wouldn't. And it really doesn't matter, Because as I hold that vibration in that container of pure and unconditional love, it shifts, right? And like we said last week, it could take a few minutes, it could take hours. I might need to work on this as a practice for a number of days or months, whatever it takes, right? And so this brings us to the message from Melchizedek. He has some advice for us and also a practice. So any of you who are walking or driving or doing at work and doing something that requires undivided focus, I'll give you a heads up when we get to the practice part. As always, just disconnect a little bit, let the words flow over you, come back to this part of the message, this part of the podcast later. So Melchizedek says this: put down the sword that you wield against yourself. It is subtle, but no less painful for its subtlety, for it has the power to hold you in ego space, in the illusion of separation. It would have you focus on lack of self-worth, lack of connection, lack of oneness with all that is. But now is your time to shine. This can be so much more challenging, dear ones, with the attacks you perpetuate against yourselves as a weight that drags and slows you down. We are supporting the release of this self-judgment. And folks, here's the practice. So if you're driving, walking, or need to stay completely focused, just let this flow over and through you. Come back to it later. Melchizedek says, when you find yourself in these circumstances, right? So the places where we're judging ourselves, imagine that you are holding a sword. And this is the sword that we use to attack ourselves, right? Imagine you are holding a sword as it rests flat across the palms of your hands. Open your heart, activate your heart light, and allow that light to flow into and infuse the sword. Watch as the sword dissolves into light, for this is all it ever was. Only your resonance of fear gave it form and power. As it returns to light, allow this light to soak into your palms, and now rest as the light begins the process of reintegration, activating your light codes and reawakening your DNA. Allow this to become a daily practice, taking time to notice the shifts that begin to occur as you open more and more to the memory of your true divine self. Know that we are with you always, especially as you walk the path of return to oneness, releasing the illusion of duality and bringing heaven to earth through your connection with the consciousness of the cosmic Christ love. We honor you, we support you, and we love you. I am Melchizedek. Breathe. How beautiful is that, right? Take that sword you use against yourself and against anyone and anything that you judge and fill it with the love and the light of your own beautiful heart. Here again, folks, the cosmic matrix can be a powerful ally. When we open our hearts to receive that vibration of unconditional love from the cosmic heart, it fills our hearts, activates light codes, and allows us to send out these powerful, loving energies so that that sword actually dissolves back into its true essence, which is love. And just like the sword, we are able to return to who we are. We are love. And as we return to being love, we no longer need to control people or situations. And hey, sorry, having control over everything is an illusion anyhow. So why not just release that one, right? We're able to be in flow. We can experience ease and grace and peace and that bliss that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. It's just not our job to fix everything for everyone. And because we know that our vibrational waves flowing out into the world have an impact, we do our work. We clean up our fields. We find ways to forgive and love ourselves. And as we do that, our light shines more and more brightly. And that, my friends, is how we make a difference. One smile, one kind word, one loving thought at a time. And I want to be super clear here as we're coming to the end of our time together. This does not mean that we give our power away when we see or hear or experience things that are not in alignment with how we see the world. And there are plenty of examples out there. It doesn't mean we condone or agree with those things. It doesn't mean that what's happening is okay. But when we get to those crossroads, we have a choice. Who do we choose to be? Do we choose to be in love and in compassion so that we can freely speak our minds, we can share our perspectives, but without trying to convince or sway or change another person? Or we can choose judgment. Like we said last week, this is hard work, but bringing in those loving vibrations of the cosmic heart through the flow of the cosmic matrix will provide profound support for you as you're doing this really hard work to make these transformational shifts. And the more and more we do that, the more that this becomes our default setting, the more we are able to remember who we truly are. Divine and perfect beings of love and light. And my dear friends, this is how Source sees you. I guarantee it, because it's who you are. And it is my wish that you see yourself the same way. Perfect, divine, filled with love and light. I am so grateful to each of you for joining me. I am Penny Starhart, and this has been the Vibrational Alchemy Podcast. Until we are together again next week, remember that you are loved and you are love.
This is who I choose.